Hello and welcome to this Pechakucha on supporting children's sensory systems. A Pechakucha is 20 slides and 20 seconds for each slide, so a total of 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Hopefully you'll learn something new about some of the less well-known senses. So most people are already aware of the 5 senses. So today we're going to focus on the 3 internal sensory systems, the vestibular system, the proprioceptive system and the interoceptive system, and we'll go into more detail about each one of these later. The educational programme for physical development begins with sensory development. Sensory development is essential for children's all-round physical health, the development of early movement and well-being. Our brain receives information from all our senses, and the nervous system uses this information to help children become aware of the world around them. Without good sensory discrimination, it's difficult to judge how to participate in everyday routines. So a child may struggle to know the difference between soft and hard, hot and cold, how hard to push or pull something, or judge distances between themselves and others. The vestibular sense is linked to our sense of balance. This sense helps us to process the position and movement of our head, allowing us to use our eyes effectively and process sounds in the environment. We can support the development of the vestibular system by providing plenty of opportunities in our settings for swinging, rocking, turning and twisting, spinning, rolling, bouncing and sliding. Our proprioceptive sensory system helps us to know the position of our body in space. It is the reason that we are able to take steps without looking at our feet. A functioning proprioceptive system allows a child to move, play and explore in a smooth and coordinated way. So how do we support the proprioceptive system? Give children opportunities for heavy work such as pushing, pulling, lifting, carrying and stretching, and these activities can all help support the development of the proprioceptive system. Our interoceptive sense tells us what's going on inside our bodies and is linked to how we are feeling. It lets us know whether we are thirsty, hungry, need the toilet, our awareness of breathing, etc. Understanding what's going on inside our bodies is important for our physical and emotional health. Support for interoception might include adults explaining how they're feeling inside their bodies and what might help them. You might want to help build children's awareness of their body signals by asking them questions such as, how do you know when you feel hot and what might help you cool down? The new Colour Monster book, The Feelings Doctor, helps to teach children strategies to regulate their emotions. Inside the doctor's toolkit, there are 36 different things that children can try to support their emotions to help them feel calm. Some children may process sensory information differently and be either over-responsive or under-responsive to sensory input. It might help to think of the sensory system as a cup and think about adding water to this cup. The water is the sensory input. If a child is under-responsive or hyposensitive to a certain sensory input, then the sensory system would be like a huge cup. You could keep adding water to this big cup and it still wouldn't feel full. If a child is hypersensitive or over-responsive to a certain sensory input, then the sensory system would be like a tiny cup. All they need is just a little sensory input and their cup will overflow. Children need their cup to be full, but not to spill over. If a child is over-responsive or hypersensitive to vestibular inputs, they may dislike swings and slides. They may also be cautious off the ground or if they're walking on uneven surfaces. So a child who has an under-responsive or hyposensitive vestibular system may have a need to rock, swing or spin to get some sensory input. A child may seek rough and tumble play and perhaps like to go faster and higher. A child who is under-responsive to vestibular input will also struggle to sit still as they have a need to move, and they might prefer to lie down than to sit. If a child is over-responsive or hypersensitive to proprioception, they may have difficulty with fine motor skills, so they may find buttons or zips difficult or may tire easily using a knife and fork or whilst drawing. Children who are under-responsive or hyposensitive to proprioception may often bump into objects or people, so they'll like big squeezes with lots of pressure, so will hug tightly. They may also walk on their tiptoes and might lack awareness of where their body is in space. A child who is over-responsive to interoception might feel the urge for the toilet very often. They might feel constantly too hot or too cold, too hungry or too thirsty. They might also struggle to regulate their emotions. If a child has an under-responsive interoceptive sensory system, they may not be able to tell if and when they need the toilet. They may not also be able to tell you if they feel too hot or too cold, or if they're hungry or thirsty. They may struggle to recognise emotions in themselves and others. Practitioners may need to become sensory detectives. They should try to identify if there's a pattern emerging, which shows how sensory information is reacted to. This will inform planning and interventions for the child to help them to regulate the amount of sensory information they need in order to respond appropriately. It may be useful to use an ABC chart to tune into the child and work out what causes their difficulties, and then this information can inform planning and provision. Every child is unique, so allow extra time to tune in and to respect and honour children's unique sensory needs. This will help to make children feel comfortable and be able to thrive and reach their full potential. Scan the QR code for further ideas of how to support children's sensory needs in your setting.